Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. My name is Adel Mozammel and welcome to another episode of Charity Talks. I'm here today with the co-founder of Muslim Fathers Support Forum, Khalid Rashid. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank
Now, I know that Muslim Fathers Support Forum is doing quite a lot of work in the sector, helping fathers navigate through the court system. Now, I'd like you to tell us a little bit more about who Muslim Fathers are and why you started this.
Sure. So Muslim Father Support Forum is a grassroots organisation. We're very small. I think there's under 10 of us helping fathers, like you said, navigate through the family courts. Why we exist is because a lot of fathers are finding themselves going through the family courts, trying to get access to their children. However, unfortunately, there's a lot of obstacles that arise when they, go through the courts. One of those obstacles is, prejudice and bias that a lot of fathers face. Us as Muslims, unfortunately, get it a lot worse than other ethnicities. I've been helping fathers for quite a long time now, about 10 years or so. In 2020, a brother called Ahmed Raidan and myself, we made Muslim Father Support Forum because we identified that although fathers lack support, Muslim fathers absolutely have no support at all. So we thought we have to bridge that gap, and then we created Muslim Father Support Forum to help Muslim fathers navigate the court process.
So what kind of support do you offer Muslim fathers that are going through divorce?
Yeah. There's a whole array of support. So we've got the legal side of things where we offer court support, and that's through Mackenzie Friends. I myself am a Mackenzie friend, so we assist people in court. We can sit inside the court hearings with them, assist them and guide them with their documents, manage their cases. Other than the legal side of things, the court side of things, we offer emotional support, therapy. We offer Sharia guidance when it comes to talaq and issues like that. So there's many supports that we do offer. Why
would someone choose to come to you rather than going through solicitors and barristers?
It's a good question. Number one, there is nothing out there like Muslim Father Support Forum. The people who are part of Muslim Father Support Forum, whether it's the brothers who are seeking help or the admin like ourselves, we've all got one thing in common, and that is that we all went through the court process ourselves to having to fight for our children. So there was nothing out there for us, and this is why, at the moment there is nothing out there for Muslim fathers to, fall back onto. Solicitors, yes, that's definitely an option, but it's not an option that's viable for a lot of fathers, Muslim or non-Muslim, for the sheer issue of costs. It costs up to about £20,000 on average for a father to go through the family court and get access to his kids.
And if they're going to go through you, I imagine that it's going to be at a more reasonable price, because £20,000 for a father to see his child, if they are not earning a huge amount, that must be quite a difficult burden to carry.
Absolutely, and especially in today's climate. We, as Muslim Father Support Forum, don't charge a penny for our services. We're purely a volunteer-based service. Everything that we do is for free. We do have services as an option for brothers. Like I said, Mackenzie Friend services. I myself am a full-time Mackenzie Friend, so we do have services that are paid for, that the brothers have options there available to them. Also, we partner up with certain solicitors firms, so we have a variety of options for the brothers there. However, what we do is totally free, without charge.
Can I ask then, how do you manage to, and where do you get your funds from?
We don't know how we manage. That's the bottom line. We are absolutely flooded, unfortunately, with brothers seeking help. Like I said to you, we're only a very small team. under 10 of us, and between us we're helping hundreds and hundreds of brothers. So managing is really, really difficult. And then, like I said to you, it is a volunteer-based service, so nothing comes for free. People are taking out their time from their jobs, from their lives. We do, try to take donations whenever we can to help and support brothers. For example, certain brothers who can't afford legal fees to get a direct access barrister, for example. So we do, short fundraising for certain projects every now and then. And we don't have a lot of money, to be honest with you.
And what's the status with the charity commission and so on? What's the plan with that?
At the moment, our application's in, so we're currently going through that process, and inshallah we will get that, and then we can officially, really start getting the funds in. That will really make a difference. But at the moment, we're going through the process.
And what and how do you get feedback from the sisters who are also on the other side? What's the relationship for them, or what do you offer for mothers?
Yeah, again, that's we started off primarily just helping fathers. However, we don't say no to the sisters, absolutely not. As we've grown over these last 3.5 years, we've also now got a separate entity called Muslim Mother Support Forum, which is solely catered for the sisters. And then to bridge the both mothers and fathers together, we've also, hopefully, inshallah, we'll be launching Muslim Family Support Forum. So we've got a lot of projects going on, but, we're slowly and surely getting there.
Inshallah, no, that's great. That's great to hear. I'd like to quiz that some of the kind of problems that maybe exist in the court space. What are the main things that you see over and over again happening that Muslim fathers are suffering from?
Yes, I'll talk purely from a father's perspective here. It's not an even contest, unfortunately. And I use the word contest because that's what it becomes when you're in the family court. Fathers generally, like you said, they can't afford legal fees. There's no legal aid available for the majority of fathers. So when you get into the court process, it becomes an uphill battle from the get-go. From the moment you even fill out your form, the C100, it becomes an uphill battle for the fathers. And there is a lot of horrors, I'll be honest. We help and support fathers. There is no one helping and supporting them. And
what is a horror?
There's many. The main elephant in the room is false allegations. It's the false allegations that are used to prevent that father then, not having access to his children. And through that, then that breeds a lot of injustice and oppression. And I see, a lot of horrible things happening in family courts. I travel up and down the country almost on a weekly basis. So even more than solicitors, actually, I've got a bit wider insight into what it's like up and down the country, whereas I'm not concentrated in just one area, and it's the same story up and down the country, unfortunately. I just want to say, look, it's not all bad. The system is not all bad. There are some excellent judges. There are some excellent CAFCAS officers, social workers. However, there shouldn't be one bad apple. That's the problem, and I see too many. And unfortunately, it's a relationship between that father and the children that suffer. I could give you so many horror stories if you want.
Tell me what type of false allegations are we talking about here?
Yeah, so you've got standard false allegations of physical abuse, verbal abuse, emotional, coercive, controlling behaviour. Where we separate as especially Muslims, and it's not just the Muslims, it's the Asian subcontinent, especially Arab, we get the honour-based abuse, the religious-based abuse allegations.
What do you mean by honour-based abuse?
So honour-based abuse, where a Muslim or Asian man is automatically deemed backwards and controlling, oppressive of his wife, not letting her out anywhere, making her dress in a certain way. So these stereotypes that are there are automatically then, thrown upon this Muslim father, for example. So the average Joe, an English person, white English person, won't have that, but we do. So we have an extra burden to deal with.
So I just want to expand on that a little bit. So you're saying that for a Muslim father or a Muslim husband, the allegations around if he says how she dresses or what time she can go out. That's considered to be coercive control.
Absolutely, yes.
Right, and that's because it's in the society that a Muslim man is not allowed to tell his wife what to wear or what time she can go out, and that's coercive control. And what does that end up if he's doing something like that?
Well, the end result is not seeing your children, unfortunately, but there's also the criminal side to it as well. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the time, what you find is when a father does make a family court application, he sometimes has to deal with criminal cases at the same time. So where his ex is left, she's also reported him or got him arrested. So he can end up landing in jail as well. So coercive control is such a varied area where anything can be deemed coercive control. And
does coercive control come under domestic abuse today?
It is, yeah. So I think just off the top of my mind, I think it was 2015, they changed the laws to include coercive controlling behaviour. And very recently, I think it was 2018 or 20, round about then, that it became official part of the Domestic Abuse Act. Mm-hmm. So coercive controlling behaviour now is officially recognised as domestic abuse and a crime.
And for a Muslim husband or father who Islamically is responsible for his family, so if, for example, he knows that going out late at night for his daughters or for his wife, they may be in some danger, and he says no, and they say that, well, this is coercive control, what do you, as a Muslim Father Support Forum, advise him to do?
So it's a big issue in court, the balancing act of what's acceptable and what's not. And again, it just comes down to the interpretation, and who is the person to interpret that is the judge. So it is potluck. Sometimes you get a judge who understands everything, so they balance out the religious obligations, the cultural sensitivities, or you get a black and white type of judge who just sees it as abuse. You are absolutely not allowed to tell anything at all, to your children and to your wife. How we help them is we guide them through the process. We support them throughout every stage of their case, every hearing. So when allegations are thrown at them, we have discussions and we, formalise a response of what really happened and try to explain it in a more legal way, in a more structured way, rather than a father just going in there all emotional, not knowing how to explain himself. And that's where a lot of the sense of bias comes in, where it's perceived bias than actual bias a lot of the time, where because you're going in there with emotions, you don't have a solicitor, you don't have money to get one, and you're up against allegations, and you don't know what to say, you don't know how to defend yourself. So that's where we come in and then give them that support.
I wonder if there are a lot of fathers who don't know that what they're doing may be deemed as coercive control or domestic abuse, particularly those coming from a South Asian background, whether it's Bangladesh, Pakistan, India, or even from the Middle East, because some of this is partly cultural. Yes. Because as a man, you're meant to look after your wife and children and protect them from harm, yet that's something they're used to. But then what I'm hearing is that if your wife and children say, we're going out at this hour, and if you say no, that could be misinterpreted as something else. In this situation, is there something that the Muslim Father Support Forum can do for many fathers out there now, going into something like that, because they may not know?
Yes, no, absolutely. Look, marriage, relationships are not easy, they're not simple, they're complex. No one is perfect, no one is an angel. We all make mistakes, and that's the first realization, is having the ability to understand that, yes, I was wrong. Everyone is capable of abuse. Whether you choose to do that or not is sometimes not under your control, because like you said, you might not know you're being abusive. Mm-hmm. So education is a big part. So what we offer is we offer tutoring, mentoring and coaching. So we are looking to work with especially our youth, so people who are getting ready to get married, trying to help them identify the right partner. Look, we don't have a textbook to follow. No one teaches us how you should be a husband, how you should be a wife. If we follow the Sharia, that would be a different thing. But unfortunately, our culture, our our communities, we're split and torn between this society, between Islam, between our cultures. So there's so much confusion. So yes, absolutely. Look, we are trying to help the new generation of fathers and husbands to, be aware that what they might seem as their obligation might end up in the wider society looking like it's control, abuse. So yeah, we do help.
How do you advise fathers to navigate through Islam, personal culture, and Western society?
This is a very difficult thing. It's a very difficult obstacle, and I don't think we've cracked it yet because the wider Muslim establishment hasn't cracked it. Mm-hmm. So we look for leadership from the wider Islamic, establishment, from our ulama, from our shayukh. We need them to step up. We're only a small, team that is trying to just join the dots together and trying to make a difference. If we had within our own Muslim establishment the support and the network there, then Muslims wouldn't need to rely on, for example, man-made court systems. They wouldn't need to go to, mediation and therapy because we've got everything in-house. Unfortunately, there isn't. So there's no quick answer to this, and we don't have all the answers at the moment.
So, in terms of how do you know when you are supporting fathers who is actually a abusive partner and who is actually misunderstood or unknowing of their actions? How do you gauge that?
Sure. So initially we have a vetting process of everyone who joins our group. We have a consultation with them, and it's quite a lengthy consultation. I do quite a lot of them, so they're not the odd, half an hour conversation. They sometimes go on for hours.
And what do you find from that?
It's quite telling because, look, if you were to go to a solicitor, for example, you'll book in a 45-minute or an hour session. We don't have time limits when we do these things, and what we find is sometimes, yes, a father's perception may be wrong, and we very quickly identify that, where something that might be acceptable to him actually is not acceptable. So we try first and foremost to show the fathers, look, this is not right. The way you're thinking, the way you're seeing things is not correct. So there are fathers, yes, absolutely, that you find that maybe were abusive. However, we don't turn our backs on them. We don't say, no, we are not going to help you because you were abusive. Because where else are they going to go? We're going to have a society full of men who were abusive, who then society has shunned and no one's there to help them. That doesn't solve the issue. So if we do identify that this father maybe was abusive, we then try to offer them help and support and guidance to correct that, to understand where he was going wrong.
And what are the main things that fathers struggle to understand? When you're trying to explain to them that they may be like this, what are the main blocks and obstacles for fathers to overcome this, to understand what you're saying?
I think their lived experience, it's easy for someone from the outside and speak to in 1 hour's conversation be telling them you're wrong. So ego is a big part of it that we find, to be honest. Cracking that barrier between past their ego and then getting into their mind and them to actually come to the realization that, what he's saying is true. Maybe I was like this. So getting past their own, defense mechanisms is probably our biggest challenge, I think.
I imagine that a lot of the fathers, prior to coming to you in that state, have quite a difficult history with their ex-partners. And does that play into their defensiveness, into listening to what you're saying?
Look, we're talking about men who are potentially abusive, but the overall majority, and I would say probably not even 5% of the fathers that we've helped were abusive. The overall majority, 95% plus even, are genuine fathers who are not abusive. But what we do find is the opposite, is when you delve in a bit deeper, it's the men who were actually being abused. And then that abuse has now continued through the legal system, through the court system, through the authorities. So,
well, that might be quite surprising to a lot of our viewers, because what you're suggesting now is that 95% of the men are innocent and 5% are guilty. Yet, in the court system, it's probably the opposite, that 95% of these men are being convicted.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say
The numbers could
innocent
vary.
or guilty. What I would say is men don't speak about their lived experiences of abuse.
Can
It's
you
a taboo.
tell me what kind of abuses is it that men are going through?
Yeah, well, it's exactly the same as what the women, say they're going through. So we've got the emotional abuse, the physical, psychological. Coercive controlling is one big one that men go through, definitely.
As in, you're suggesting that it's the men that are going through coercive control rather than the women?
Absolutely. I mean, not rather than the women. Women do obviously go through that as well. But one prime example of a man being coercively controlled is having the children used as a weapon, to demand and coerce that father into, submitting to whatever demands, the woman might have. Mm-hmm. So the children are used primarily. That's why we're here, through the court system. That's what we fight to reunite them with. So that's just a prime example.
And so when you have all of these different types of abuses that are taking place,
Yeah.
do you have a particular kind of strategy that you go about dealing with the men that are abusive, the men that need support, the court process? And one of the things that I don't know if a lot of our viewers know, what exactly is a Mackenzie friend?
Sure. So a Mackenzie friend there's three types of Mackenzie friends. The viewers might like to know. One is a person who's a friend or a family member who can go into court with you, offer you emotional support. Another is a support worker like myself who is part of a support organisation who can then go in a professional capacity into court and offer you advice, support and guidance. And then you've got a professional Mackenzie friend, again, which is something that I do also, who goes in there as part of their job to go in there and help and assist you. And it's very similar to what a solicitor does. So documents, court advice, taking notes, bundles, applications, these kind of things. And yeah, that's basically what a Mackenzie friend is.
A lot of people may say that the majority of Muslim households, the men are the primary breadwinners. Hence, they have the lion's share of the wealth to actually spend.
Yeah. That is true. In especially the subcontinent, our cultures, it is very prevalent. But within wider society, it's probably the norm as well. But the problem is that then gets used against the father. And I didn't mention one type of abuse is financial abuse. So we have that aspect of a normal, marriage where the father goes out to work, the mother's, the homemaker, looking after the children. But however, in the family court, this all gets turned upside down and then used against the father because he controlled the finances. Everything was in his hands.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, that's fascinating and very, very interesting for our first half. I'd like to thank all our viewers that are watching today and listening to this very special episode of Charity Talks with Khalid Rashid from Muslim Father Support Forum, and really giving us an insightful understanding of how the court systems work and the support that they provide all the men out there, and also for sisters and families wider is something else that they're looking to do. So we'd like to all ask you to return after the break, inshallah, and we'll continue with this special episode. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.